Well, hello there. If you're a new parent currently running on what? 3 hours of sleep, a totally cold cup of coffee, and just sheer willpower, you are in the exact right place. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into the latest evidence-based sources together to build a clear, visual guide to safe swaddling. And I promise you, by the time we wrap this up, you're going to have the practical, safe steps you need to help your restless baby and, let's be honest, you finally get some better sleep.
Let's jump right into it. Does the startle reflex keep your baby awake? Look, we've literally all been there, right? Your baby is finally drifting off, their eyelids are getting super heavy, and then out of nowhere, bam! Their little arms just fly up in the air, waking them up in an absolute panic. It is beyond exhausting dealing with this sudden crying over and over again, especially during those chaotic 3 a.m. wake-ups. But you know what? It's not random at all. There's actually a very specific physiological culprit behind this whole shebang.
That sneaky little culprit is called the Moro reflex. So this is a completely natural startle response that's hardwired right into your baby's nervous system. Basically, they uncontrollably throw their arms and legs out, which unfortunately startles them right out of that peaceful slumber you work so hard for. But here is where the magic of swaddling comes into play. By wrapping your baby up securely, you're essentially recreating that safe, tight, and super familiar feeling of the womb. It's like a giant comforting hug. This physical boundary stops those flailing arms from waking them up, calming that specific reflex down so they can actually stay asleep.
But hey, hold on. Before you grab a blanket on day one, our medical sources actually emphasize a really interesting timing rule. You really need to wait until after that first week, which in Dutch care is often called the Krumptijd. Why the wait? Well, during those first 7 days, skin-to-skin contact is absolutely vital for you and the baby. Plus, as a parent, you kind of need this unswaddled time to properly learn and recognize your baby's natural hunger and sleep signals. If they're all bundled up right from the get-go, those subtle little cues become way harder to read.
Section 1. How to swaddle safely.
Breaking down the physical act of wrapping your baby securely really shouldn't feel like a chore. If you're using a traditional single cloth, here is exactly how you tackle it. First off, fold the top point of the cloth inward so you get a nice straight edge. Second, place your baby right in the middle, making sure their little shoulders align perfectly with that fold. Third, grab one side, wrap it over one of their arms, and gently tuck the point under their back. And finally, grab that remaining side, wrap it over the second arm, and tuck it away. Boom! It's quick, it's totally doable, and it perfectly mimics that cozy womb environment.
Now, a truly crucial point is how you manage their environment once they're all safely wrapped up. You absolutely must keep the room temperature between 16 and 20 degrees Celsius to prevent overheating. And always make sure you're using appropriate TOG layers. You can kind of think of TOG as a standardized rating for how thick a blanket is, just to match whatever the room's temperature is. Oh, and this is perhaps the most important rule of all. Never, ever feed your baby while they are swaddled. Babies have to have their arms free during feeding to make sure they stay alert, active, and can latch properly. Remember, swaddling is purely a tool for sleeping, not for eating.
Section 2. Mind the hips. Protect development.
1 in 50. To put that into perspective, that is the number of children born with an underdeveloped hip joint, which is a condition known as hip dysplasia. Because this is so remarkably common, understanding proper leg positioning when you swaddle isn't just, a helpful suggestion. It is absolutely vital to make sure their hip socket deepens and develops correctly.
See, there's a massive difference between safe and dangerous lower body wrapping. Our sources highly recommend what's known as the cooker stand, or frog position. In this position, the baby's legs have plenty of room inside the cloth to spread out in a drawn-up shape, and they can fully stretch out if they want to. Now contrast this with wrapping their legs straight and super tight. That tight wrapping heavily restricts their natural movement and literally forces the hip joint into a highly damaging angle. So the golden rule here? Always keep the top snug and the bottom loose.
Section 3. When not to swaddle. Strict boundaries.
So I found this first strict rule super fascinating in the literature. You actually must wait exactly 24 to 48 hours to swaddle your baby after they receive their vaccinations. You have to totally pause your swaddling routine until this specific window passes, just to be completely sure they don't develop a fever. But why is this so specific?
Well, it all comes down to a really fascinating quirk of baby physiology. See, unlike adults, babies can't easily sweat to cool down. They regulate and release their body heat mainly through 2 avenues, their head and their hands. When they're swaddled, sure, the head is safe and exposed, but those little hands are trapped inside the cloth. Because vaccinations can cause a baby's body temperature to spike, trapping their hands severely limits their ability to cool off, which can lead to really dangerous heat stress. So, let those hands go free after a jab.
Beyond vaccinations, health authorities actually list a few more hard contraindications. You must immediately stop or avoid swaddling entirely if your baby currently has a fever, if they've been diagnosed with signs of hip dysplasia, if they're suffering from a severe respiratory infection or breathing issues, or if they have wet eczema. And honestly, the final point on this list is so incredibly critical, it perfectly tees up our next major topic: rolling over.
Section 4. Time to transition. Stopping safely.
Here is the absolute hard stop for swaddling, the very moment your baby shows signs of rolling over, which usually happens right around the 3 to 4 month mark. Once a baby becomes mobile enough to roll onto their stomach, having their arms trapped inside a swaddle turns into a massive safety hazard. They absolutely need their free arms to push their face off the mattress and clear their airway.
So how do we actually stop safely without ruining everything? We do a gentle transition. First, start weaning them off the swaddle on quiet, low-stimulation days. Definitely don't pick a day when they're already overtired from, say, a busy family gathering. Second, keep the rest of your bedtime routine exactly the same. The bath, the dim lights, the lullaby, those should all remain constant anchors for them. Third, phase it out gradually. Try leaving just one arm out of the swaddle at a time for a few nights, or maybe invest in a transition sleeping bag with zip-off wings to help them slowly get used to having their arms free. It might take a few nights of patience, but I promise you'll get there.
As we close out today's explainer, I really want you to remember that while swaddling is brilliant, it's just a temporary tool for those beautiful, albeit chaotic, early months. You've got the evidence now, you've got the safety protocols, and you definitely know how to master this phase. But your child is going to keep growing and changing. So as you prepare to eventually pack away those swaddle cloths, I want to leave you with this thought. What will be the next comforting ritual you create for your baby's sleep? Thank you so much for learning with us, and hey, here's to a good night's rest for both you and your little one.